All right, welcome in everybody. Welcome to Main Event Fantasy. My name is Nick, and this is going to be a good night of fantasy football best ball drafting. This is Main Event Fantasy. We're going to have a good time. We're drafting best ball teams. They dropped on Underdog tonight a couple of new tournaments. They got the Husky, which is a 10 entry max, 50,000 at first place. $40 entry, and then they got the Chihuahua 2, and that is a 25 entry max, $4 entry, 30,000 to first place. So we're definitely going to get into some of these. We're going to start hopefully here with the Husky, and with the Husky, it looks like we're 3 out of 12 advance and weeks 1 through 14, then 2 out of 8 in those pods, 1 out of 6, then a 117 seed final. This seems like a reasonable tournament that very likely, I shouldn't say likely. The odds feel good here in getting in. So we're going to jump into a Husky, and hopefully we'll get 5 people still waiting in this draft. So if you're joining us, you'll be able to jump in the draft with us tonight anytime. We do draft right here on Underdog, usually every night between 10 and midnight. And if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll know when I go live, and you can jump in a draft with us. So appreciate anybody who jumps in, watches the stream. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you know, as we're just trying to grow content. While this is filling, we may have an issue getting everybody, getting this draft to fill. So here's what we're going to do. That way we don't wait. I'm going to go back out here. I'm going to start in a Chihuahua 2. And if the Husky fills, then we will go ahead and move the Husky in, and then I'll finish the draft on my phone for the Chihuahua 2. So we'll kind of go that route. Let me pull up a couple things here. Listen, a lot of news and notes from training camp, and my Lord, the injuries are really piling up, guys. And I want to say we're dodging some bullets right now, but I kind of feel bad with all the injuries that are going on. I really do. And I'm hoping that, we'll dissect some of them. I don't think some of them are as bad. It's just training camp talk. He stubbed his toe and everyone's panicking. Let's not draft him. Stuff like that. We don't need to overreact here to news that we get. We did get the 1-7 pick in this draft, and so we'll see how this works out for us. And I'm kind of excited to get into the Husky draft when that starts to fill, so we'll see how that goes. Oops. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here. Jamar Chase goes. Bijan Robinson goes at 2. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Bijan's going at 2 now pretty much regularly, and he's kind of flip-flopped. He went from 4 to 3. He kind of jumped over Saquon, and then now from 3 to 2, he's jumped Justin Jefferson. And I think with Jefferson, what you're seeing is people are freaking out because they're saying that he, had a little bit of a hamstring, tweak or whatever. He's going to be fine. Don't have fear. Keep drafting Justin Jefferson. He's a guy that you should not run away from. And if he's going to continue to fall in drafts, we should be saying thank you and draft some more of him, is what I would tell you to do. I guess we'll get Christian McCaffrey here. Haven't had a lot of him lately. I think it just got chilly in my room. I don't know what's going on. Like the air just kicked on. It's like sitting over my head. Puka goes at 8. Pretty standard draft so far. Jahmyr Gibbs has been jumping up too. So like the more Justin Jefferson and Saquon Barkley fall back later in drafts, the more unique teams you might be able to get, going through this. Derrick Henry goes at 10. I keep seeing Derrick Henry being pulled in the first round, and I just can't get there. Not a pass catcher. I get it. Second round, no problem. I'm just not there. With some of these injuries, you kind of have to be careful. But I will say it does feel like there's more injury training camp news now this year than there has been in years past at this point in training camp. I mean, it just really started. And we're seeing a lot of people banged up. Drake London goes. Ladd McConkey goes. Let's pull this around. Neighbors is still here. That would be sick if he came back around. He won't because we've got 3 badge drafters. Somebody here is going to grab him. Tyreek Hill goes a little early. Genty goes. Oh, please leave Neighbors for us. That would be an amazing start. McCaffrey and Neighbors. That would be a disgusting start. And Neighbors got picked, as he should. But we're going to get Achane, and we're going to do a back-to-back running back start. He's got an ADP of 13 right now, and we're getting him at pick 18. That feels pretty good. Achane here at 18 is a little late. He's been going here in picks 13 through 15. So we kind of have a little bit of a unique start here, and we like to keep that going. I love a unique start. Really gives us some advantage. Especially when the teams and the tournaments that are going to be a little bit bigger with more teams, you want to be a little bit more unique. So I'm pretty excited about this start. Brock Bowers at 20. A.J. Brown at 19 is kind of a fall too. I think what pushed some of these guys down was Tyreek Hill got pulled up at 15. Oh, excuse me. It's cold. It's making me yawn. Tyreek Hill, back in May, I was drafting a bunch of him, and he was in the 3rd round. Like, I'm talking 29, 30, 31. Like, the fact that he's going all the way up here at 15 makes me feel good about how much I've been drafting him early on, that I've, my take feels good that I've been doing the right thing. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is Best Ball Drafting right here on Underdog Fantasy. If you're not familiar with the Best Ball format, but you've been drafting fantasy for a while, Best Ball is you draft your team and the best players play, and that sets your lineup automatically. You don't have to manage your team. You don't have to do trades, waiver wires, anything. It all does that for you. 1 quarterback plays every week, 1 tight end, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and then a flex. And so you don't have to decide, whoever scores the most points in that week is going to play for you. All right. A little bit of run on wide receivers here. We do need to start getting caught up on wide receiver, but it's kind of crazy that, we're staring some of these guys in the face. I'm probably going to push them down and see if one of them falls back further, because we really need to get a wide receiver, and that hurts. So are we really about to do this? Are we really about to do this? This is going to be a 6 start, and I don't think I'm going to like it. We'll take Josh Allen. This is going against everything that I normally like to do in terms of draft strategy. I'm okay with the double anchor RB build. I'm actually, if you look at my video talking about my favorite draft strategies, double anchor RB is one of my top 5. But I normally don't like to combine that with an elite quarterback. And I do like elite quarterback very much. The problem you run into is there is a big fall off at wide receiver values, usually after round 5, and then another drop off around 7. And so the question will be, can we catch up at wide receiver now that we've gone double anchor running back and an elite quarterback. Can we make up our ground in wide receiver? We're going to try. We're going to have some fun doing it, and maybe it'll turn out good for us. Keep taking running backs. When we see Kyren, Breece Hall off the board, let them keep going, because right now we know we're going to fade on running backs at this point. Oh, something put me on autopilot and another draft. I don't know why. Oh, all right. We're on the clock. So Worthy and Tet McMillan, I like them both. We're just gonna take top of ADP. They did say here's, speaking of injuries, talking about being day-to-day concussion protocol, I think Worthy's going to be fine. When you look at these injuries and the news that are out there, you have to decide, does this player, I guess the way I look at it is, one is, what are they saying about a person's injury? Is it sound like coach speak? Is it just fluff, or is it something really wrong? Like when Justin Fields hurt his leg, the very first article that went out was, oh, he's out for the season. He broke his leg. He tore something. Then it kept changing. And all of a sudden he hurt his big toe. And now he's wearing a toe boot today. And he's back on the field practicing. Guys, Justin Fields is going to be fine. He'll walk through it. He'll run through it. He's fine. I would not freak out. Worthy, they're saying, is day-to-day, got knocked around. There's a lot of time before the season starts. As long as he doesn't get another concussion during the preseason, you're fine to keep drafting him. Don't be afraid. Now, there are guys like Joe Mixon who hurt his ankle and his heel, and has already been announced that he will miss several games or an extended absence. That is the kind of thing where you want to look at that and say, okay, now I need to adjust where I'm taking him at, and how do I feel about him? So that's kind of how you want to look at injuries, is what are they actually saying? What is the actual injury? And then I would also look at what's their injury history, right? Like, I'll be nervous if I find out in preseason or in training camp, CMC, if he hurts his Achilles and he's missing a week of practice or something. Now I'm a little more nervous because he's got a huge injury history with his legs, right? So you just kind of have to take it in stride. Don't overreact. Sometimes you'll let the market overreact, and they'll push the guys down draft boards, and you're just going to sit there and say, thank you. I appreciate it very much. You take the gift. We're going to get one of these here. We got to keep the wide receiver train rolling so we can dig out of here. And I don't mind getting Waddle and having another Miami player, but you know what? Instead, I'm going to go Zay Flowers to change it up. I've gotten a ton of Waddle, and I don't mind him here, but Zay Flowers is the one on Baltimore, meaning he's the X receiver. He's their primary target, whereas Waddle is the 2. But I do think both players will have a good role in this offense. So I ran into another draft on on my phone, so I'm trying to play that as well here. I feel like I guess I'm going to try and take the zoom down again, like I did yesterday. You guys have to tell me in the comments, did that initial part of the stream when I was zoomed in a little bit more, was that a better look, or do you like this view better? Do you like it more zoomed out? I'm still trying to fiddle around with the controls with how I'm doing the streams to try and maximize, the view, and still learning here. So bear with me. That's why I keep saying your support is much appreciated, because I'm still trying to learn, and I'd love to build this up and do it with you guys. Debo goes. Debo was a funny one. The camp news on him was he was fat and out of shape when he showed up, and now they're talking about that he's being used all over the place. So I find that pretty funny. All right. Would love to get Rome here. That would feel pretty good. And we're going to get him. So ADP of 60, we're getting him at 66, a little bit of value here. So far we got Josh Allen, quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, running back, wide receiver. We have Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Rome Odunze. I like the player archetypes that we have here. All of these guys could be electric, week-winning players. And we're starting to make up our ground at wide receiver when we went a start of double anchor running back with 2 running backs, and we threw in the elite QB. So we'll see how this draft kind of comes around here as the board turns. This is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts. So this guy here, TJC, takes Joe Burrow at 67. He's not stacking him with any Cincinnati players. Like, he should have waited to try and get maybe Dak Prescott or, let's see. I mean, I guess here instead of DK Metcalf, he could have went Jalen Hurts if he wanted. You know, maybe he thought he'd come back around, but he usually doesn't anymore. But you can get Aaron Rodgers later. You can get Sam Darnold later. You need to stack your quarterbacks. And then this guy did manage to make a stack. He was probably hoping that when you have Jamar Chase and Chase Brown, that Joe Burrow comes back to him at 72. But he wasn't forcing it, and it still worked out for him. So this is the difference between a badge drafter who's got experience and someone who maybe doesn't draft a lot and just needs a little bit more education and coaching and guidance on, how to maximize your drafts and maximize your chance of winning, because we're trying to win a bunch of money here, right? That's we're having fun doing this, but at the same time, we'd love to win. Let's see what's coming back around to us here. This one looks like a slam dunk no-brainer, and he went. He would have been perfect to pair up with Josh Allen, but unfortunately, it's not going to pan out this way. We're going to go ahead and keep this recovery on wide receivers going and get Matthew Golden here. So he'll be our 4th wide receiver. I'm okay with it. I like it. We're starting to recover at wide receiver when we start with a double anchor running back build alongside a elite quarterback. It's hard sometimes to make up the wide receivers because the drop off is huge, and we're really kind of starting to hit that bigger cliff here. And so we needed to really recoup that. We really had to go and pull wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes goes at 82. So here he gets Mahomes, but he has no wide receivers with Kansas City, and he's in trouble. So this is not how you want to draft a team. He's going 4 running backs with only 2 wide receivers. Didn't correlate Mahomes yet. I mean, he still can. There's options in the back, which is fine. But you can't recover and make up the wide receiver depth here. You have to start 3, if not 4, every week. He's now have to count on the fact that he's probably having to start 3 running backs every week, and that's a little more risky, from that standpoint. Sorry, just grabbing this other draft real quick. All right, let's see what's coming around. This is kind of crazy, actually. So we're coming up on 90. We've still got some fallers. Joe Mixon's still here. Nope, no, he's not. But Godwin's still here. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. Now, Pittman news was he had a groin injury Tuesday. So I'm going to go ahead and take Chris Godwin here. With Pittman, we know he's had injuries in the past, so that's a little scary. Let's read what it actually says so we kind of understand. They're calling it day-to-day, so I wouldn't freak out yet. and they figured to be fine. So you just kind of have to watch and see. Makes you a little nervous, but you can't freak out and not take him if you like him just yet. Let him fall. Let other people make the mistake, and then you capitalize on that. He says, hey, I'm struggling kind of. I'm in the 9th in a 14-man, and I don't know what my start should be. It's a redraft PPR league. You can go wide receiver, running back, or running back, wide receiver, but I feel like a combo of Henry, A.J. Brown, or London is better than Neighbors, Puka, Collins, Jacobs, Irving. Yeah, it kind of depends on what's going to come around to you, honestly. When you're in a 14-team league, the one thing I always tell people to take into consideration is the more teams in your league, the harder you got to look at the positions that run away with options quicker. I don't know if in your league you start 2 or 3 wide receivers, so that kind of plays a role. But I would say if you can get one of the premium running backs that falls to you, I would definitely start there, and I would take that running back first. Running backs will run out first before the wide receivers do, so I would tend to start running back first when you're in that league. But let the draft come to you. The other thing you can consider is looking at the quarterbacks. You could take an advantage there, or you could even take advantage of a premium tight end, right? An elite tight end. Trying to get advantages where the other teammates will not in a larger league like that creates a lot of advantages. So I would definitely focus on wide receiver a little later. And I think you'll have enough options to do that. All right, coming back around. We've really kind of caught up here a little bit on our team. I think the obvious choice here is Coleman to pair up with Josh Allen. We want to pair up our quarterbacks with some pass catchers, 1 or 2. It does increase our upside. I've talked about that pretty much every one of these streams. If you need some more help with me explaining that more, I'm happy to do so. So far we've got Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane. Wide receiver, we've got Worthy, Flowers, Rome Odunze, Matthew Golden, Chris Godwin, and Keon Coleman. We've got a rookie wide receiver. We've got some year 2 wide receivers and 2 anchor running backs. It feels really good. This is kind of a fun start. I think we recovered really well by when we don't have a wide receiver with our first 4 picks here. I'm sorry, first 3 picks. Herbert goes at 109. Oh, I keep forgetting. So there's this other draft just popping up on my phone, so it's distracting me, so I apologize. All right, let's see what's coming up on us. Chicago, New England, Detroit are options at quarterback. Could do Tyron. Nope, Tracy's gone. I think we're going to go ahead and just grab Caleb Williams here as our second quarterback. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. So when we grab Caleb Williams here and we already had Josh Allen, this is where we're only going to get 2 quarterbacks on this team. Especially when you go in the league quarterback, you're counting on him to score a lot of points. So don't waste. You can only start 1 each week anyway. You don't really need the extra shot at trying to get points at quarterback. So we're going to stop here, and we'll use that extra, pick somewhere either in tight end, running back, wide receiver, to try and add some depth there at positions where maybe we're not as strong. So thanks a lot, man. It's 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, and a flex. Yeah, and see, this is where, because you've got a flex and it's only 2 wide receivers, all the more reason to get bigger into running backs when you're in a 14 team. And people, with injuries, running backs a little more harder to, keep stable. I guess you could say wide receivers are a little more fluctuating in what they can do. So if it were me, I'd definitely try and prioritize running back in the onesie positions, just to get an advantage over the rest of the people in your league. Yeah, YouTuber uses that round one wide receivers 2.5. Yeah, and they can. It doesn't mean you'll, because you're also looking at it this way. If you're not necessarily comparing what's round one wide receiver going to do against round two, you have to look at it deeper. So like if they got a wide receiver in round one and you got a running back and they slightly outperform you, just in that 1v1, but if that means that later on your wide receiver 2, 3, 4, 5 were better than their running backs who are terrible because they got shut out at running back, you're making up the points, and at the end of the day you want to win the week, not win player versus player, right? Oh, what do we want? Charbonnet or Williams here? Got a third running back. I think we'll just stick with Charbonnet. We're getting some pretty good values to come back to us, and I like that. I mean, Charbonnet was at ADP of 115. We got him at 127. So just take the faller and say thank you. Now here we're 8 picks away. The obvious choice here is Kincaid, so we can double stack with Josh Allen, and that would be exactly what we want to do. Let's hope that pans out. A couple other injury things. Hollywood Brown, you'll see here, tweaked his ankle, and so they're saying he's going to undergo testing to confirm there's nothing major. This is something to watch. I think he'll be fine, but I would keep an eye on him. He's been rising in drafts because of the news on Rashee Rice, who's probably going to have a suspension, probably, I'm guessing, 6 games this year. So while Rice is dropping, Brown, Kelsey, and Worthy are all rising. What's this guy's name? Shiva Cup Holder. I like it. Very creative. Says I've been told to draft everybody and nobody at the same time. Dude, listen, I'm gonna say this. Hey, Kincaid came around. This draft is just falling our way. This feels like an absolute smash. This is how we're gonna win a whole bunch of money on underdog leagues. So I feel good about this team. We just gotta not screw it up here at the end. Sorry, just 1 second. I just have another draft on my phone on the other side, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't throw that one in the garbage can. Listen, everybody's got a player take and all that. What I'll tell you is that I've done this a long time, and I've really gotten heavily into best ball the last 4 years and won a lot of money doing it. I still am in redraft leagues, dynasty leagues. I play in Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, DraftKings, and then mostly here on Underdog for best ball. And doesn't matter who you talk to, everyone's got an opinion. I really try to focus on facts and not just my opinion, because you can be swayed. If your favorite team's Dallas, and then all of a sudden you're drafting Dallas players higher than maybe they should go and more aggressively than what they're worth, for example, you can kind of really pigeonhole yourself with your player takes, but just look at the data. The data won't lie. There are certain player archetypes that I like because I'm drafting for ceiling and not floor, meaning I've tried to stay away from old guys, right? Or I'll get some of them depending on where they go, if the value's right, but I'm not going out of my way to draft a bunch of older players. All right. Speaking of names, by the way, this was something to watch. Isaiah Likely hurt his ankle. He's going to be out a few weeks. It says they had to take him out in a cart. They're going to do an MRI and determine how bad it really is. This one's something to watch. This means you're probably going to see. Let me just make our pick here. Love Trey Benson here. 142. Some of my favorite picks are falling to us here, and that really makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Bring the board back around. But yeah, so Mark Andrews is going at 104 in this draft. I bet you see him rise, especially if you find out if there's anything wrong with his knee or leg when they do the MRI. You'll see him rise in drafts, and that means his value goes down. But it could help you if you've been heavily drafting Mark Andrews on a bunch of teams, down here in the 104, 115, 120, whatever you can get him at. And he rises, that means you have a lot of value on your team because you got him before he rose. And then in the inverse, if you were drafting a whole bunch of Isaiah Likely, now you're feeling kind of bad because he's just going to fall, and you could get more value on him when he falls. We'll make this pick, and then I see Kai's got a question in the chat. Let's see here. What do we want to do? We know we're done at quarterback. I'm probably only going to take one more running back, but we'll see. We won't touch Likely right now. We'll let that play out. The crazy part is I really like Jalen Wright here, but I've already got his counterpart, and I genuinely don't get too into that. We'll get Roschon Johnson. I don't have a lot of him. He technically does stack with Caleb Williams, so it's not a terrible pick. So Kai says, what's your favorite build in these BBMs? So I have a video or a stream I did talking about this, and I actually showed on the stream what worked well in 2023, what worked well in 2024. What did we learn from those 2 years to kind of shape what people are doing? And for me, I'm big on facts and data and all that, but I have kind of a top 5, I guess we'll call it, list of ways I like to draft these teams. So my number one strategy from a draft strategy standpoint is anchor running back. And if you're not familiar with what that means, so anchor running back, let's see if we can kind of give you an example. So I guess none of these teams really did it. Yeah. Anchor running back is when you get a running back in rounds 1 or 2 and you don't draft another one until after round 5 or 6. I feel like if you draft Bijan here and then I like to follow that up by attacking it with what I call the wide receiver avalanche, which this guy kind of did that. He did stick James Cook in there, which is fine because you want to take the draft as it comes to you. And if he's a good value, you take him. Oops, hold on. We're on the clock here. Or we're about to be. We need some more wide receivers. We need a tight end. We need 2 tight ends probably. I like any of these guys, truthfully, but I think we'll just go ahead and take Gesicki here as our second tight end. So anchor running back, I really like. I think it's a great strategy. It's been one of the most effective strategies year in and year out. The other one I like is what we're doing now, which is my second favorite, which is double anchor, where you're getting 2 running backs out of the first 3 rounds, and then you're kind of punting the running back like I did here until later, because you're basically saying, hey, I only got to start 2. I've got 2 dominant. I'm betting here that these guys are going to crush. So why do I get more? I can go ahead and, push those other positions. The trouble with when you get too many running backs early on, like I was talking about earlier, the Mile High Kid, he only got 2 wide receivers. He didn't get his third until the 8th round. It's really, really hard to dig out of the wide receiver hole when you have to start 3, if not 4 with a flex, to only have 2 receivers through 8 rounds, because he's looking at he's going to start Hollywood Brown every week. I mean, we just heard that he might be injured, so he's really putting himself in a bad spot. I mean, can you win that way? Yes, absolutely. Is it optimal? It's not. And, it's just proven that that's just not the best way to do it. Let's see here. Plenty of guys I like. I think we'll probably just finish out our tight end room here. I actually was going to go Cade Otton, if I'm being honest. But I don't mind grabbing a piece of Jonnu here. A lot of people were drafting him way earlier when he was on Miami. Then he gets traded to Pittsburgh and he plummets. And so this might be a really great, time to draft him at pick 186. So we're done at tight end now. We're definitely going to draft a couple more wide receivers, with our last 2 picks here in this draft. We're done at quarterback and running back because we have the double anchor. And we got some really solid backups. We don't need any more running backs here. So we'll just be there. Let's just queue up some guys that I think will work well with our draft here. Guys that I like that I think will get some value. And there's guys that these are guys that I click not all the time, but I like to mix it up that I feel good about. I'm actually going to raise him up. And when you're in like the 18th round, you kind of want to take your shots, right? Take chances on guys that you think, could do something for you. You're not counting in your 18th round guy to do anything, right? We'll recap this team once we're done. And we'll talk more about it. And we'll kind of look at the board and see how things played out. Whoops. Sorry. 1 second here. This other draft is going crazy, and I'm all about it. I'm excited. It's going really well. All right. Couple things I want to do. 7 and 5. I'm going to take him out. So I took out a couple guys because I'm just trying to. This is where I can say, I don't really want another 7 or 5 if I don't have to. So I'm going to take Tyler Lockett. I think he'll probably be, if I'm being honest, the number 2 or 3 option in the offense. And so, veteran or not, if he's going to get some points and be a decent floor, I don't mind taking the floor guy down here at the bottom of this draft to make up for anything. So Jalen Nailor, I like Jalen Nailor. He's got a lot of juice. They're talking about him bulking up the offseason. You just heard at the beginning of the thing, I talked about how Justin Jefferson, is a little bit banged up with his hamstring. Who knows? And then you're looking at Hawkinson, who's come off injuries in the past. Who's to say he stays healthy? You have what's his name, who's on suspension, he may get suspended, and miss some time. So I think Naylor's got a huge chance in Minnesota to have a really good year. And when you're picking him at dead last and pick 18 in the draft, you're taking a flyer on a guy who is in an offense who also plays in a lot of dome games, which means good weather. So there's so many reasons to take a shot on a guy like him. There's other guys that I don't think make a lot of sense drafting down here. Just because you're talking about guys that are like the 4th or 5th option on their offense guaranteed. All right, we'll take Nailor. So after Nailor, we are done with this draft. So we have a 2-5-8-3 build. Josh Allen, Caleb Williams at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson, Roschon Johnson at running back. Wide receiver, we've got Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Rome Odunze, Matthew Golden, Chris Godwin, Keon Coleman, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Nailor at wide receiver. Dalton Kincaid, Mike Gesicki, and Jonnu Smith at tight end. We did stack a double stack with Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman with Josh Allen. And then with Caleb Williams, we have Roschon Johnson and Rome Odunze stacked up with him. The other thing that I talk about is week 17 in best ball. There's the old saying, it's very popular out there, that week 17 is all that matters. I talk about it all the time because you're trying to play for the absolute ceiling and upside. And so if you're going to sit here and say that, Buffalo plays Philly, you want some pieces of that game. If that's going to be the best scoring game in week 17, you want pieces of both offense, right? In this example of Chicago, Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers play Chicago in week 17. So if I make it to the finals in week 17 and this game goes off and goes crazy, then I want these guys in Chicago to go off and I want McCaffrey to have a huge game. And then all of a sudden, I'm more likely to win, a lot of money and advance higher, in the money ranking. So it's just really a numbers game. I'm not playing to get, middle of the road. You want to play to win, right? So you kind of have to correlate your bets, right? So that's kind of what that means. So let's jump into another draft. We'll see if the Huskies going to fill. If not, we'll go into a Chihuahua. Three people left in this draft. If you're in the room and you want to draft with us, by all means, in the link below in my description, I do have Underdog Fantasy link there. You can click on it, make an account, jump in, and you can draft with us. So there's three people here in the Husky. This is a $40 entry for this draft. Let's see. Kai, what's your take on the 49ers, guys? I'm pretty stumped on them right now. Hey, you know what? I've got some strong takes on the 49ers, guys, and I'm pretty bullish, and I'll kind of go through why. So let's talk a little bit about Jauan Jennings. I'm not completely out on him, but I'm pretty close to it. He had a good year last year, but he capitalized on a bunch of injuries on the team. You had McCaffrey out. You had Ayuk got hurt, Debo missed some time. And so he was getting a lot of looks because he had to. And I don't really think the guy's that talented. And look, I'll pull up a couple things real quick. Hold on. Just to give you some actual data before last year. I mean, he was nobody. So Jauan Jennings, let's look at last year. He finished as a top 10 wide receiver only 3 times. In the week in PPR points. He was still the 24th ranked wide receiver. He had a snap share percent of 73. The year before that, he had 46% snap share, 48%, 32%. He was the 110th ranked wide receiver in PPR scoring the year prior. I just don't think the guy's that talented. And, if you're going to tell me he's been in the league for 4 years now and he's now breaking out, that's just rare. So I really don't want a whole lot of him. And then, changing that over to, some of the other guys in the room. The guy I'm really high on. So Brandon Ayuk, I get it. He's coming off of an injury, but he was their primary receiver in the past. And when you look at him, the last 2 years, he was the take 2024 out because he got injured, but he was the snap share 84%, 91%, 84%, 87. That's the last 4 years in a row. So almost the same amount of years played, but the last 2 years prior to last year, he was the number 14 and 15th ranked wide receiver in fantasy football. So is he worth taking a shot on with his talent level? Absolutely. So with where he's going in drafts right now, I think he makes a ton of sense to take shots on. I wouldn't be overweight on him, but I'm definitely going to have some of him on my team, without a doubt, only because he goes there. Now, my favorite guy on the 49ers, and I think he's in my Guy episode on wide receivers, is Ricky Pearsall, Sticky Ricky. So last year he had one week where he was a top 10 wide receiver, and it was the second to last week of the year, week 17. Week 18, he was the 14th ranked receiver. So he started to kind of show up more, in that regard. So, and he was only at 51% snap share because he was coming off of when he got shot. But as the year went on, he showed how explosive he could be. And so the fact that I just think the guy's got juice. He showed it in the end of the year. And I want to get guys where they're drafted right now that could break out. Like, you want to be ahead of the breakout. You don't want to wait till they break out and then draft them, and you're drafting them at their ceiling. I want to draft guys that have a ceiling, that haven't quite gotten there yet, that have a chance to do that. So I'm actually drafting quite a bit of Ricky Pearsall, and I do plan to be overweight on him. Nothing too crazy, but where he falls, it just makes a lot of sense. And we'll kind of look at the 49ers in this draft and, see where they end up falling out. All right. So this $40 drafted, Phil, we're at the 106 or the 16, depending on how you look at it. And we're going to go ahead and take Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's see. McCaffrey goes at 7. So in these drafts, and you don't have as many entries. I think this is a 10 entry max tournament, so you can only do 10 entries. So it's not as many teams are going to be in this type of a tournament. So you don't have to get as crazy in terms of being unique. But you want to still build out your teams to give yourself high upside. So, we have an opportunity. We take Gibbs here to do the anchor or double anchor RB strategy. And it really kind of depends on what falls. I really love just scooping up the value when it comes to these drafts. Neighbors goes. If y'all haven't heard me, if anybody's ever been in here before with me, you know that I am a Neighbors guy. He's the kind of archetype of wide receiver I want, a guy who demands the football. They want to give him the football. He had 170 targets last year on a bad offense and still put up great points. So if that offense is even just a little bit better, and he keeps getting fed targets and he's in year 2 and learning even more, I mean, Neighbors could be the wide receiver number 1. And I know some people are thinking I'm crazy, but he's got it in his range of outcomes. And that's what I'm talking about. When you're drafting somebody in the first round, you want people that have that kind of upside. Not saying the other guys don't, by the way. I'm a little bit more in on Neighbors than maybe most are. All right, so we've got a couple of wide receivers that could come to us here. We'll see if one of them falls. I would prefer, I was hoping for A.J. Brown, but we'll take Ladd McConkey as our first wide receiver. Oops. Speaking of injuries, somebody asked me earlier about Matthew Stafford, and this is something that came up last week, I think, on this stream. He got a back injury. We talk about injuries, and there's been so many already in training camp, and you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt and really figure out, how to evaluate that. Matthew Stafford's got a back injury. His back's hurting. The guy's 37 years old. So you're talking about, how much do I want to put stock into a 37-year-old wide receiver who's had a history of injuries and is at the tail end of his career? I like him. I think he's talented, has some great wide receivers, but that also makes it scary for me on how much Puka I'm getting, how much Davante Adams I'm getting, just because of the risk there. So I'm being a little bit cautious there. And I do like Davante Adams this year, where he goes, because he's a 3rd-round guy, and I think he could score as many points, if not more, than Puka. And Puka goes in the 1st round. So, speaking of which, So Harrison's my guy this year in best ball with where he goes. I'm getting in every single draft that I possibly can. Speaking of Devontae Adams, we will jump on him. We'll take advantage of it. So not huge ADP fallers, a pretty smart and solid draft room. Nobody's like letting guys go and just letting them plummet. We're not getting a lot of any crazy fallers here. And you can tell we have, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, 10 out of the 12 drafters are badges. So meaning they've played enough to either win a bunch of money or they've just entered a whole lot of tournaments. Kai says, what about the Miami guys? I like HM, but I don't know about Waddle and Tyreek. Yeah. So on Waddle, the camp news is that he's looking like, like the best player out there. People are saying Tyreek looks like old Tyreek, even though he's 31. So I'm in on Achane. I do like him, so I agree with you there. I will get a good amount of Achane when I can. I'm not going to pull him to the first round like some people try and do, but I'll definitely get some of him. Tyreek Hill, I was getting a bunch of Tyreek Hill earlier when I was doing drafts back in May because he was going in the third round of these drafts. Now people are pulling him up into the second round. He's got some training camp steam too, saying that he looks super fast. And of course he looks fast. That's what he does, So unless you get some bad training camp news, he's going to probably continue to be in that mid 2 range. I'm okay getting him, in the second round still. But I'm not going to take him over AJ Brown, Drake London, Brian Thomas. I'm going to take these guys first every time and any one of these ones before him. But then once he goes, like if it's between Ladd and him, I'm probably still going to go with Tyreek Hill, even though that might be a little controversial take. I just like Miami's going to throw more than the Chargers will. And so I want a wide receiver on a team that's going to throw more. Good options here. I'm taking Ted McMillan. I'm getting a bunch of him this year. So I like getting him. And this room really isn't given any extra ADP. So we're just going to have to make sure we do a good job of correlating our teams. So the Miami tight ends, I talk about this about being ahead of the you kind of want to take your best guesses, right? And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, right? Jonnu Smith, there are people saying they're all over him. They love him. They were taking him where he was, and that's great. And then all of a sudden the trade happens, and now he's plummeted, from where he was getting drafted. And, now he's getting drafted at the end of drafts around 17 and 18. I love drafting him there on Pittsburgh because he's a talented guy. But so because I wasn't drafting a lot of him and now I can, I'm getting some value there. With Darren Waller, unless I have a Miami team and I have Tua, I'm not touching Darren Waller. And if I lose, a Best Ball Mania championship or whatever because I didn't have Darren Waller and that's the guy I needed, then so be it. I'll accept that. I can't bring myself to draft him. But to kind of summarize, your 49ers question, Ricky Pearsall is the guy I'm most in on for sure. Out of all of those by far, and I'll take some Ayuk in there. For Miami, I'll take all of them, meaning Tyreek, Waddle, and Achane. So speaking of which, I think I'm just going to take advantage of the faller here. We're at 54. And he's ADP of 46. So first real, we'll call it faller here. That gives us our fourth wide receiver. So this draft strategy is my preferred strategy. I want an anchor running back, and then I want to do what's called the wide receiver avalanche. Draft a bunch of guys that are, could get me a lot of points, build up that position, and then I'll start to fill out the quarterbacks, tight end, and more depth at running back as the draft goes on. This is my preferred way to build. If you look at team 1, he's kind of doing the same thing, right? He's got Bucky and he's got 4. B money here. When he goes no running backs in the first 5 rounds, he's basically saying he's going what's called zero RB. And that's a strategy that got really popular the last 2 years. And it was good in 23, not as good in 2024 because your anchor guys like Saquon and Bijan and Gibbs, these guys paid off last year. They didn't get hurt. They stayed pretty healthy, and they scored a lot of points. So the anchor strategy was better. And it still proves out to be better. It's one of the strongest strategies out there. Yeah, listen, man, on Waddle, I get it. It's hard to click Waddle when he's had such a down year. But when I kind of mentioned I like archetype guys, from a ceiling standpoint, Waddle's the kind of, wide receiver that can crush a week, win you a week. If he could go off, if Tua's healthy, we've seen what he can do. He has that range of outcome of being a dominant receiver. So I'm willing to take chances on him, on a guy like that. So I'm still clicking him. Because again, I want guys with high ceiling. I'm not looking for safe necessarily. I'm looking for guys that can outproduce where they get drafted. And, we're looking at Waddle, who's going in, where did he go here? In the 5th round. He can outproduce this. Johnson goes. Swift goes. I'm not in on Mixon right now. Could get my guy Sticky Ricky here. It is a $40 draft. I normally don't reach that far, but you know what? Never mind. I'm going to almost miss the clock. I'm going to get Addison. I do like Addison too. I don't have a lot of him, but I'm getting a little bit more. Seems like a fun team so far. We've definitely got some good depth at wide receiver built up. We have our anchor running back, and we'll see now. We've got a lot of guys that can pair up. We can get Herbert. We can get Mr. My Back Hurts Stafford. We can get Bryce Young. We can get Aaron Rodgers, and we can still get J.J. McCarthy. So we have plenty of quarterback options, and I love not forcing my quarterbacks. I want them to come to me. And a lot of times they will. So I really try not to force my quarterbacks. Joe Burrow goes at 70 to the T. Higgins team. Yeah, hey, and that's a good call, Kai. So on the redrafting, I'm probably not taking Waddle in redraft either because there's going to be plenty of other wide receivers available in redraft, and it's a different kind of way to play it. Unless he drops significantly, I'm probably not taking him either. So good call. Packers takes Golden versus Reed. This one's fun. I love the question on Golden versus Reed. So I want both of those guys. Early in the offseason, the offensive coordinator and the wide receivers coach were doing an interview, and they said that Jayden Reed is acting like the locker room leader in the wide receiver room. They expect him to be the leader in that room and be wide receiver 1 and all this other stuff. And so a lot of coach speak there, but it doesn't mean necessarily a bad thing. All right, we're up. Hold on. Laporta. So here's the fun part when we get Laporta. We have Gibbs. We have Laporta. I would love to end up ultimately pairing them up down the road with our man Jared Goff, and the bring back that they have in week 17 is Minnesota. And that is one of the most favorited games by, we'll say, players like me who draft a whole bunch of teams trying to win a bunch of money, because that game is one of the top 5 games that they're projected to go off because they're in a dome. And anytime you can get teams with playoff schedules for the best ball playoffs, they're playing a lot of dome games. Weather takes out of it and usually get higher scoring games. But going back to the Packers, I like the Packers. I liked them last year. I liked them this year. I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to be overweight anybody. Like I'm not going to go out and say I want so much Matthew Golden that I want to be, 25% of my teams I want to have Matthew Golden. That would be, a little bit crazy. I'm going to sprinkle them both in when it comes to best ball teams. For redraft leagues, it really depends on where they go. For those types of leagues, again, same thing. I might take them, but just to take a shot on guys that one of them can sit on my bench, right? Depending on how your draft flows. And I guess if I had to pick one on redraft, I'd probably go Golden because he's the unknown, where we've seen a little bit of the others. All right. So no quarterbacks gone up yet. We could definitely add to our wide receiver room. We could double tap tight end and go back to back. But I think we definitely need to strengthen our running back room here. So we'll take Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson's in a contract year. He's going to want to show out. His offense is getting better. They're going to score a bunch of points. Austin Eckler is going to be 1 year older. They drafted a guy who looks pretty good in camp, but I don't think he's going to be taking Brian Robinson's job, barring any injuries. So he feels like a good every week play to maybe stumble into the end zone and, grab some points. Who I don't have enough of now that you mentioned the Packers is I really don't have a lot of Josh Jacobs this year with where he goes, and I'll show you why. So where he's going here, number one, I like a lot of wide receivers in this range, and my favorite pick I've said is Marvin Harrison. Absolutely love him in the third round. So I take so much Marvin Harrison that it impacts my ability to take Josh Jacobs. The other thing is Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, these types of guys, when they come to the third round range, I like them a little better because they tend to catch the ball more historically. And that just adds to the potential of, the ceiling that they could have. But I like Josh Jacobs. I have no problem taking him. I think really for me, Marvin Harrison really is getting in the way. That's my issue on him. All right. We're kind of getting into that range where we can peek at some of the quarterbacks. If there's anybody coming, no, we don't really need any of these guys until we get to Goff, I guess. So we'll kind of keep this rolling. I'm okay with a lot of these guys. I'm going to go Cooper Kupp here. Could be a safe volume play. Seattle does play Carolina week 17, so there's already a built-in bring back here if that game goes off. So the correlation there works pretty good. I'm really liking how this is coming together. Yeah, love clicking Golden. It does feel good. And by the way, so Jordan Love. I'm getting a lot of Jordan Love, and the reason I'm getting so much of him is where he's going in these drafts. He's so low in terms of where he's going. I mean, look at this. Jordan Love is going after Herbert, right? After McCarthy. McCarthy is shot up boards. And I get it. People want to take chances after Drake May, Jordan Love's a great value. And when you're trying to stack his pass catchers, they're across the board. I mean, you can get Romeo Doubs down here along with his tight end, Tucker Kraft, around the same time you're getting him. So if you didn't get one of his, you didn't get Golden, you didn't get, earlier, you can still grab these guys and still build yourself out a stack. They also play Baltimore in week 17. That's their week 17 game. That could be a really huge game, from a scoring standpoint. And so if I get Baltimore players, I want some Green Bay players. So I'm going to have a lot of Jordan Love. He might be one of my most drafted quarterbacks, and I'll show that here at the end. I'll actually pull up my quarterback exposures and we can look at that. All right, what's coming around? Mooney's still there. ADP of 90, and we're coming up on 115, and there he goes. Somebody's smartening up here. Oh no, what am I doing? I can't get too cute. I got to get Goff here probably. 126. So where is the Amon-Ra drafters over here? Oh, and Goff went to, so this is what's funny. So Goff goes and he went to the Jameson Williams drafter. I didn't think they would pull him early, so we kind of are out on Goff now. And that's okay. We'll just play it as it comes. I have another idea on how we can make this team work. And I think I'm going to like it. We're going to do McCarthy. He will stack up with Jordan Addison. And now I'm playing the Detroit game backwards. Instead of getting Goff to pair with Gibbs and Laporta, I'm now playing it with Jordan Addison and McCarthy going against him. So I'm still playing the same stack here and the same game stack, but I'm just playing it differently now. He's got a lot of love. He saved my redraft team 2 years ago, middle of the season when my QB1 got hurt. You could easily pencil him. Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind, so a lot of people are forgetting Love hurt his leg last year. And so he didn't run as much, and that hurt his fantasy value because quarterbacks that run, dual threat quarterbacks, are way more valuable in fantasy football, as we all know. And so he could run more this year, and I think he will. And I'll pull up his stats after we make this next pick. I just think Love's a great pick. If you go and look up the guy who won Best Ball Mania 5 last year and won him millions of dollars, he had Jordan Love on his team with a double stack. He had Josh Jacobs and I think it was Romeo Doubs on the same team. And he needed them as those guys as part of his team to get him through the playoffs and ultimately ended up winning Best Ball Mania. So, and he was a great value with where he got him. So, you know, I think Love's a great pick, and I'm definitely going to have plenty of him. I love Love, I guess is what you could say. All right, let's come on our way. So we could do Herbert. Which I don't hate. We may even end up making this a 3-quarterback build, and Herbert goes. Wonder what this guy had to make him pick Herbert. We do need some more running back help, so we may want to pull. Let's do Ramondre here. We'll just take who's on the top of ADP. Build up our running back room. You know, so when we get our anchor running back at Jahmyr Gibbs here, you only start 2 running backs unless you use the third flex on a running back in a week, which happens. You're really starting to build out, you know, 3 or 4 more guys below him that are kind of, you're hoping that as the weeks go on, you know, maybe one week it's Brian Robinson, the next week it's Stevenson, the next week it's so-and-so. And, you know, those guys ultimately make up your second points in running back position for, you know, the each week. And that's kind of why the anchor plays. And then we got so much depth at wide receiver. We're going to plan to use 4 of these guys every week. And I feel confidently we can get a good amount of points out of these 4 guys and some big spike week potential. So we're a pretty balanced team right now. We look really good. I'm really happy with this team. Loveland goes 130. He's a guy I don't have a lot of. He's starting to perform. You know, they talk about injuries. He's doing 7-on-7 drills now, starting to perform more. I'm not worried about it. They knew when they drafted him in the first round this year that he was going to start slow. I probably need to draft more of him, especially on teams where if I'm getting all these San Francisco 49er players, I could use him as part of the bring back or on some other Caleb teams to build up some back stacks. All right, let me look at this Asher guy. So he took Herbert, and he has no Chargers. Makes no sense for him to get Herbert here unless he thought he was going to get Quentin Johnston to come back around. He's got Kyler Murray, Arizona quarterback. He did stack him with Harrison, so that's good. All right, let's see what's coming around. A lot of options here. I mean, he's still here. We were looking at him potentially last time. I mean, I really like all these guys. I mean, there's none of these guys that I wouldn't take right now. Obviously we're not going to take them all. I think I'm going to kind of keep building out the running back room here and just take the faller, who is Javonte Williams. The later you get in drafts, the more you can kind of scroll down and find guys that I don't say that you like or that you have more faith in than others. But I genuinely try and look for ADP values because, especially higher up in the higher rounds, even just sliding back half a round could make your team more unique. Last question before I log off tonight. What are your thoughts on the rookie running backs? Who do you like at their ADP and whatnot? Oh, yeah. Good question. So let's just kind of take a quick peek at the board and kind of go. We can go through real quick line by line. I'm in on Ashton Jeanty. This is a guy who I actually was taking a lot earlier in the first round when he was going there before he started to fall backwards. But I like Jeanty. I'm not going to be too overweight on him. Sorry, I just got to adjust the chair. But I do like him. I think he's going to get a lot of work in what I think is going to be an improved Raiders offense. Give me 1 second. Let's see what's coming around. So we definitely need to start getting some quarterbacks before they all go away. So, I think I spoke this into existence that I said that his back could be a problem, but we're going to put old man Stafford on our team to pair him up with Davante Adams. And you know what? We're going to feel damn good about it because we're supposed to be drafting like we're right. And so I'm going to say I'm right by grabbing Matthew Stafford here. Unless Pro Shiro here decides he needs a third quarterback. So we'll grab Stafford here. Jumping back over to some of the other rookies, just going down. My favorite rookie probably at value right now is Hampton. He was going in the mid fours, and now he's going up to the third because of the eye injury to Najee. And I was very overweight Najee, and I still feel good about Najee having a big role. I think his eye will be fine. Hopefully I'm right. I've kind of paused drafting him because I drafted him so much, but now I'm trying to get Hampton as much as I can before he keeps skyrocketing upwards. But I like him still in the third round. I would choose Hampton probably over Kyron. And I kind of have him and Brees close, but I'd probably still choose Hampton in that round. Rolling on down here. Travion Henderson over RJ Harvey every time for me. Caleb Johnson I'll get a little bit of. I think I actually like in one of my favorite my running back video, I talk about this. I am a huge Jaylen Warren guy this year with where he goes in drafts. His value is huge. So, and I actually would rather have DeAndre Swift than I would Caleb Johnson. So there's Warren here. Scatterbo. I've got a good amount of Scatterbo, but I mix him in. I'm probably 50-50 on who I'm picking over, for the running backs and the Giants until I hear more information. I was taking a lot more of Quinshon Judkins before the crappy news. So I pretty much just stopped touching him for now and waiting to see how he falls. He's definitely, he's not even signed yet to the team. Who knows what's going to happen? Tootin is a guy who's like electric, and I don't have a lot of him. I think he's the third running back in that offense. If you look at Camp News today, it looks like Tank Bigsby is performing the best out of all of them in training camp right now. And ETN, I think, is going to have a role. So, all right, let's do. You know what? Let's grab a third quarterback. Let's grab Sam Darnold before we get sniped. So we'll stack up another one. We have stacked Sam Darnold with Cooper Kupp. And we've made some really nice week 17 correlations here with these teams. It's okay. I'm okay getting 3 quarterbacks when my first quarterback isn't drafted until 115 with JJ McCarthy. So if I would draft quarterbacks a little higher, I'd probably stop at 2. But just kind of going back to answer your question. So I was talking about Judkins. Yeah, so Tootin, I don't have a lot of him. I'm not a believer in him. I think he's a pretty talented guy. I bet you we're probably drafting him 1 year too early. Like, I think next year might be his breakout year. And, you know, maybe he'll show flashes, and then I want to get him next year. I like Dylan Sampson at Cleveland, especially now that the Judkins news. I think that's good choice where he's going. Just have to watch how high he gets drafted. Yeah. I think that kind of covers the majority of the rookies there. So hope that kind of helps. But I definitely think my favorite ones to draft are Genty still, and then Hampton. Probably my favorite too. Where they go, I think is fine. Yeah. But I do think there's a lot of good running backs in values where they are, because people get obsessed with these rookies, and I like to get pieces of them, but I'm not going to force it when that happens. All right. Let's see here. What do we want to do? Where are my quarterbacks? Minnesota, Rams, Seattle. We'll wait on that. Let me get Michael Wilson here. Michael Wilson's going to be a wide receiver too, in an offense who I think is going to get better. He reminds me of a lot. If you look at Puka, who broke out, he was going in the 17th, 18th round, and people are like, "Wow, I didn't see it coming." He was the wide receiver 2 on a pass-first offense in the Rams, and people said they didn't see it coming. I was in on Puka that year, 2 years ago, and I won a bunch of money because of him. I mean, even if you didn't believe in the talent, if a guy's going to be on the depth chart as the 2, he's going to get a lot of passing. So if nothing else, he at least has a good floor. And he'll stumble into the end zone a couple weeks. I mean, I love where Michael Wilson's going. He's definitely a pick where I think he makes a ton of sense. So was Alec Pierce here. Even though Indianapolis Colts, I don't think are as good of an offense, I still think his value where he's going, definitely getting pieces of him too. Depth chart does matter. And I don't care what anybody says. And I can be wrong, and I'm okay. I don't mind being wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong some more. So, hey, man, thanks. I appreciate the love. Appreciate the interaction. Appreciate you joining in. Drop a like below, and hopefully we'll see you some more in here. I try to draft every day that I can around this time, and maybe we can build up this channel together and win some money together. All right, so we know we need a couple of tight ends, and we have 3 more picks. So 2 of these picks are going to be tight ends, and then one of them is going to be running back. So we're strictly running back and tight end through the rest of the draft. I think there's plenty of options at running back. I'm going to get Arroyo. So if you didn't know about Arroyo, he's competing with AJ Barner now, but he's the rookie who is making some miraculous catches on tape. But why this is, he's rising. He was buried and not drafted as much, but that's because they had Noah Fant on the team. Well, they let Noah Fant go. He's no longer on the team. So it's kind of between Arroyo and AJ Barner, and just the talent profiles. Arroyo's way more talented. So he's a great pickup, especially when we compare him with Sam Darnold as a double stack with Cooper Kupp. And we've got Tet McMillan for the bring back in week 17. That's a beautiful pick. Now, whoever I get in my third tight end, I don't want it to be a week 8 bye. I don't look at buys that much in tournaments like this, but I don't want to have 3 week 8s and have nobody playing in week 8. That would be not intelligent. Like, I could take Terrence Ferguson here, right? Because he stacks up with Stafford, but then I'd have 3 week 8 tight ends, so that's not going to happen. So, but lucky for us, there's guys that I like down here. I really like Chig as a late round tight end. He's very athletic, super talented guy, and he offers a lot of upside potential. And he's definitely going to be in the offense. They're talking about great chemistry with Ward. Ward was in an interview talking about his talent, so far in the early training camp and preseason stuff. And so, and he's gone. Of course, I spoke that out loud, and someone said, hey, I heard you were right. I'll take him. So we'll take Dalton Schultz. He's in a good passing offense, should have a role. Good floor kind of guy there. So now we just need to round out our team with a last pick will be a running back. I'm just going to pull some guys that I think are good options that we could throw onto our team. I could fit this team, guys that I like. New news on Zach Moss is that he's still working on his conditioning. Basically, they're saying he's been out so long because he's been rehabbing that he's out of shape. That's a bad sign. And so I'm definitely I want more of the Cincinnati running back, Taj Boyd. I don't have enough of him, but he's still going late in draft. So I want to get more of him before the hype train keeps pushing him up these draft boards. And they said that he's been catching passes in the backfield with the first team. So I still want to have more of him. I don't hate Marshawn Lloyd either. What's the news on Lloyd? I didn't see that. He's nursing a groin injury. Of course he is. Half the league is nursing a groin injury right now. There must be something going around, contagious groins. He'll be fine. Walk it off. All right, plenty of options that we can pick from. Rico Dowdle would be my favorite. Mostly, the only reason Rico is my favorite here is because he correlates with Week 17 bring back with Seattle. But otherwise, actually would probably go here, if I'm being honest. We'll see if he pulls. All right. We'll take Rico, finish this team off. Let's recap the team, and then I'll show you guys my exposures to quarterbacks that we're talking about. So at quarterback, we have J.J. McCarthy, Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold. Running back, we have Jahmyr Gibbs as our anchor, Brian Robinson Jr., Ramondre, Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdle. Wide receiver, Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams, Tet McMillan, DK Metcalf, Jordan Addison, Cooper Kupp, Michael Wilson. Tight end, Sam Laporta, Elijah Arroyo, and Dalton Schultz. So like a tight end, we've got, somebody who could really outscore his ADP, and Laporta, should be an every week guy. Arroyo could be a late round just crusher on a team that probably is going to need to throw the football. Dalton Schultz, steady Eddie. So we feel good we're going to get points at the position. Wide receiver, we've got guys that have spike week potential all over the place. Target hogs like Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf. Their quarterbacks like to zone in on guys. Tet McMillan's a rookie. There's upside, huge upside there. Jordan Addison's a huge upside player. Kupp should be a target hog. So, I feel great about our wide receiver room. Gibbs is our anchor here, was the number 1 running back in fantasy football last year in PPR scoring. Robinson, good offense. I think New England will be improved. He'll still have a role. If Javonte Williams wins his battle at camp, is the shows that he's another year removed from his injury and somehow stumbles into success with Dallas. Good offense, could score a lot of points. So Rico Dowdle just came off of a pretty good year. And so when we look at the correlation, we do have Minnesota stack with Jordan Addison and McCarthy. We have Matthew Stafford and the Rams. We've got him stacked with Devontae Adams. And then we have Sam Darnold double stacked with Cooper Kupp and Arroyo. With Seattle, they do play Carolina in week 17. So we have bring back there because we have Tet McMillan with the Seattle. And we also now have Rico Dowdle. So that game, we're kind of all in. That game will score more points than we thought. And then the Rams, they play the Falcons. We don't have any Atlanta players for that bring back, and that's okay. We don't have to have it. And then Minnesota, as we've been talking about, they play Detroit, and we have Jahmyr Gibbs for that bring back. So, and we do have Sam Laporta. So we're kind of in on a couple of different games. This is a great way to build a team when you're trying to win a tournament. I feel great about this team. This could win us a whole bunch of money. So I like this team. Like it a lot. So let me show you guys real quick. Go to completed drafts. So my exposure, let me go back. So done over, I guess officially over 400 drafts now. We'll be over 700 by the time we get to the regular season. But if I just look at these 377 teams, and you look at my quarterback exposures, 11.7%, Sam Darnold, Tua, Josh Allen, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson. There's Jordan Love. So Jordan Love is my 6th highest drafted quarterback. So what I'm saying is actually what I'm doing. It does match up. I expect as drafts go on to get more Kyler Murray because of how much I love Marvin Harrison this year. So I think that'll go up. Let's see who I'm low on. So if you're looking, if you're going to draft a lot of best ball teams, 8% is the average exposure. If you're 8% or around there, you've drafted a even amount of him. It's kind of how you can look at it. Anything above 8 is considered higher exposures. And then anything below 8, it means you might be a little bit underweight on, and you might want to look at seeing if you want to elevate that. So as we kind of keep going down, I threw in a couple random shots at a couple guys. Like I'm really low on Bo Nix, and some people are all in on him, right? Dak Prescott I'm low on, but that's because I don't get a lot of CeeDee Lamb. I want more Michael Penix. Like I want guys that have, you don't know what his ceiling really could be. So I want some more of him. I'd like to get some more Herbert. Even my Purdy's low. I'm actually surprised Brock Purdy's low. So there's some guys I'm a little bit underweight on that I've got to probably look at. So as we get into August here, which is kind of that final month of drafting, kind of like this blitz for drafting, I have to kind of look at my exposures and get an idea of, not forcing player picks, but trying to find guys that I need to up my portfolio on. So, all right, well, that'll do it for tonight. I'll be back on tomorrow, I hope. I don't see any reason why I won't be, but I should be on sometime between 10 and midnight. And so I would appreciate if you guys would throw a like on the stream, subscribe if you'd like. There's a link down in the description below to Underdog Fantasy. If you want to draft with me live, I do draft around 10 p.m. Central Time between 10 and midnight, 2 to 3 drafts or so every night. And you guys can jump in and draft with us, and we can kind of talk things out, ask any questions you like we did tonight. Loved interacting with you guys. And let's see if we can all win a whole bunch of money playing fantasy football this year, should we? Thanks for being on here, and y'all have a good night and have a good day tomorrow.